Yo, this is Josh Rubin from ESOS Healing Improvements. Today I want to talk to you about water, constipation, and intoxication. Now, you find a lot of people out there thinking that water is the end-all, be-all to help with constipation. You know, if you're constipated, most people say drink water. A lot of people say drink half your body weight in ounces a day. We have all these recommendations of what's going to work. Well, we have to really look at the person. We have to look at physiology because maybe sometimes the very thing you're doing to help yourself could be actually hurting you. And a lot of the times we have to think about that. Can anyone actually really hurt us? No, we allow people to hurt us. And is anyone really making us take anything? No. So pretty much what we're doing, which is the tough part, what we're doing in life is actually creating our dysfunction. So we have to really analyze this. We look at our physiology. Anytime the body's inflamed, anytime we're estrogen dominant, anytime we're eating a lot of undigestible foods, fermented foods, like below-ground vegetables, sauerkraut, nuts, seeds, green vegetables, things like that. We're not regulating blood sugar by eating the right ratios of macronutrients during the day. We're not eating the right amount of foods or frequencies for our body. Some people need 5 meals, some need 4, some need 6, some need 8 to regulate blood sugar and adrenaline and cortisol and things like this. So anytime the body's inflamed, your cells actually overproduce lactic acid instead of carbon dioxide. Well, carbon dioxide is very, very facilitatory to the thyroid, which regulates metabolism, upregulates the immune system, upregulates the digestive system, and so forth. So anytime you're producing excess lactic acid from being in an inflamed state, we'll simplify it, what happens is your cells don't utilize thyroid hormone, vitamin A, pregnenolone, cholesterol, etc. appropriately, or oxygen, and you actually start producing excess lactic acid. Well, the problem with this is twofold. During this process, of course, you're releasing excess cortisol to regulate this inflammation because cortisol is not only a glucocorticoid regulating blood sugar, but it's designed to regulate inflammation. That's why if you're inflamed, you have edema, you have eczema, and so forth, you have pain, doctors want to give you cortisone shots or prednisone. They're corticosteroids. They reduce inflammation. But they're very catabolic, and they actually halt the immune system and halt all anabolic processes in the body. So if we look at this, when your cells are inflamed and you're actually producing excess estrogen, or you can't detoxify it in the liver, or you're oversynthesizing progesterone in this process and it's low, two things happen. The cell's affinity for water increases. The cells take up calcium and hold on to it, which is very excitatory. And estrogen itself actually alkalizes the cell itself and causes more uptake of water and more causes the cell to hold on to calcium even more, which stimulates excess release of parathyroid hormone, which causes more inflammation. Excuse me. So when this happens, this is actually quite dangerous because now your cells are holding on to water and they're not letting it go. Well, during this process, something interesting happens. Your body, your cells actually lose sodium and sweat and urine, things like that. And the kidneys actually try to work overtime, and your body tries to work overtime. One of the interesting things that is released is called aldosterone. Try to stay with me. The thing about aldosterone, it's actually been shown that most people release excess aldosterone at night, especially in depressed people. The thing about aldosterone, it actually fights for the same receptor as progesterone. Progesterone reduces inflammation and reduces edema and is anti-estrogenic, and aldosterone works with estrogen to produce edema and so forth. So if aldosterone goes up, progesterone is going to go down. Now, aldosterone tries to retain sodium in the body so you don't lose it, but it does this at the expense of losing potassium and magnesium, which actually regulate blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and help help the cells to breathe properly and regulate insulin and inflammation. So you're going to lose potassium and magnesium, and this goes back to the simple fact is, if you're deficient in these, you've done labs, you really need to take them or actually regulate inflammation, regulate aldosterone to upregulate calcium and potassium. And there you go. You didn't need to take a supplement. You just needed to eat food like broth, chocolate, tropical fruits, and coffee. And orange juice has tons of potassium and magnesium. So if we look at this, let's rewind a bit, go back to aldosterone. Aldosterone does this. In the process of doing this, your body's in a catabolic state. So you're breaking down muscle tissue and protein. And the problem with this is you actually produce excess ammonia. This is very toxic for the kidneys and make the kidneys work overtime. It's a huge burden for them. And I found a lot of people that come to us with interstitial cystitis, a lot of kidney problems, pain in their kidneys, kidney stones. I'm not saying we fix everyone. What I'm saying is I've noticed that what we do in our philosophy, by down-regulating the catabolic response and down-regulating aldosterone, we indirectly treat the kidneys and actually help the kidneys work properly to reduce as many symptoms that people are having. So going to my main point of all this, if you drink more water and your cells have an affinity for water, there's a problem with this. Because when you're in a, let's say, a deficient metabolic state, a lot of people say hypothyroid, but I don't want to diagnose. The problem is your not only your cells, but your vascular endothelium, like in your body, your veins and things like that, in your veins, and your muscle tissue actually hold on to water. They respond less to neural conductivity, and they fatigue easily. So we have to look at this and say, well, we have all these disorders like fibromyalgia. We have people getting diagnosed with eye diseases. Maybe the muscles behind the eye are actually swelling. We have people getting diagnosed with adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome and all these different physical and autoimmune diseases that maybe correlate to the muscles. We have to think, maybe it could actually be caused because I'm actually inflamed. And maybe my muscles are actually taking up water, right? Because when you excess estrogen, that actually pulls water out of your blood and pushes it into your tissues. That's why you get swelling and edema around the neck and kind of that fluid around your body, or maybe the time of your cycle, the beginning half, the follicular phase. Maybe you get a lot of swelling because you're estrogen dominant. So we have to look at that and say, well, if my muscles are swelling, they're taking up water because I'm in an inflamed state, maybe that's why I have fibromyalgia. Maybe that's why I have carpal tunnel syndrome. Everyone says carpal tunnel syndrome is in the wrist. That's the branch of a bigger rooted issue. Now, of course, the brachial plexus in the neck feeds kind of the carpal tunnel, the nerves that go through it in the arm and stuff, from the cervical spine. But we have to look at it and say, well, it could be a physical issue. It could be the cervical vertebrae. It could be the discs. It could be the anterior posterior scalenes. It could be the first rib. It could be the subclavius. It could be the pec minor. All those things can cause carpal tunnel syndrome. But we also have to look at, what if it's not a physical issue? Or what if I want to use nutrition to help facilitate the healing process in my client with carpal tunnel syndrome? We have to say, well, what if it could be because they're in an inflamed state? We have to look at that because most people are bodybuilders that take growth hormone. One of the main symptoms they get besides swelling is carpal tunnel syndrome. And it's because growth hormone is stimulated by estrogen, and estrogen stimulates prolactin, and growth hormone stimulates prolactin, which all cause inflammation of the sheath around the nerves that cause swelling, that cause carpal tunnel syndrome. Same thing with stenosis, swelling of the vertebral canal. So you have to look at all these diseases and say, do I actually need to drink more water? Because if you think about it, same thing with issues with the heart. You have to think about issues with the heart. What if the heart is actually swelling? And the reason is it's really not the heart. It is the muscle, but it's because I'm in an inflamed state. So if I drink more water and my cells have an increased affinity for water, maybe that's actually going to do more harm. So if you think about your gut, most of the water you drink is actually absorbed before it even reaches the large intestine. And that's why most people drink water, because they want to help move feces along. Now, what if we said drinking more water, when the muscles in your gut are inflamed, they'll expand, right? But they'll expand inward, so now this hole gets smaller because all your cells are taking up water. The more water you drink, the more the muscle tissue takes up water, the more swelling you get, and the less that's actually going to fit through the tube, or feces are going to fit through the tube. So it could actually cause more inflammation. Now you're probably saying, shut the hell up, you said enough, I'm completely confused, which is good because when you're confused, you're actually learning, what do I do? Well, my YouTubes are not about what do you do. They're about more information to spark thought so you can actually take control of your health so you understand the why. But the bottom line is you have to look at the foods you're eating. Make sure you're eating digestible foods. Make sure you're eating tropical fruits and saturated fats and anti-inflammatory proteins and so forth. But also make sure you're eating the right ratios and frequency for your body during the day. Another important thing I would say is only drink to thirst. That's what we recommend clients to do, and we only recommend typically carbonated water because of the CO2 content to help facilitate thyroid production and cellular respiration. The last most important thing that we recommend people to do, excuse me, and of course it's more deeper than this, is salt. Eating the right amount of salt in your diet actually is anti-estrogenic. It downregulates adrenaline. It downregulates aldosterone. It downregulates a lot of these inflammatory markers that are causing you to be in an inflammatory state, and you're losing sodium. So if you increase the body's intake of sodium, of course, you can't just eat salt and you're going to get better. There's many more factors to this. But if we increase the body's sodium intake, now we're going to actually allow the cells to work properly, breathe properly, produce carbon dioxide, which salt regulates carbon dioxide production in the body, which is very facilitatory to the thyroid. So it's going to help produce T3 with the liver, which is going to allow your cells to breathe properly, which is going to downregulate all the inflammatory markers I talked about, reduce swelling in the muscle tissue itself, and allow the cells to actually let go of water. It decreases their affinity for water. So of course there's much more to it. I know it's a little technical, but I love this stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Hope you learned something. I'm out of here, and I'll check you later.